series of our webinars hosted here by Belzona Houston. This webinar is pretty important for the Gulf Coast region, being that we are coming up on hurricane season and monsoon season. Belzona offers a pretty wide variety of solutions when it comes to weatherproofing, be it for roofs, vertical, horizontal type walls with cladding type material, as well as just sealing in everything and preventing any kind of leak, and also protecting some of your assets that might get damaged due to excessive weathering, and also maybe suffering some damage from wind and whatever the hurricane brings its way. We're going to have Alex, our in-house engineer, present this webinar. It's great, got some great useful knowledge on it. And if you can, at the end of it, please reach out with a contact and your name so I can get a CE 1 hour credit to you. We will have that emailed to you right away. And also, if there's any other information you'd like to learn about this, we're happy to help and get you in touch with the right people.
Thanks,
Alex.
Thanks, Quinn. Thanks, everybody, for joining in to our monthly webinar. Like he mentioned, this webinar, we're getting ready for hurricane season, rainy season. Hopefully, no hurricanes hit us, but want to be prepared for that heavy rain that we know is coming. So we're going to talk about our weather and waterproofing materials. And we're going to go all the way from the outside to the inside, because you can find leaks just about everywhere within buildings and structures, refineries, chemical plants. There's a lot of different areas where you do need waterproofing. And just going into some of the traditional issues on roofing, which is one of the main topics we're going to discuss. There's just different things that are going to happen. Movement is going to cause a lot of cracking in some materials. UV degradation, moisture swelling, heat. A lot of flashing loosens up over time and causes leaks at penetrations and other areas that are bolted together. And then there's also some materials that shrink over time, which cause stress and cracking. So you really have to take these typical issues that you find to create a long-term solution. And some of these areas, some of the weak points in roofing and structures are going to be your joints and seams, penetrations, skylights, gutters, anywhere where you're connecting things with bolts or rivets or caulking where there's that seam. That's going to be your weak point. And we have several solutions, and we've tailored our solutions to take into account these hard areas and all of the typical issues you're going to have. And this, we're not, we didn't come up with it here at Belzona. We're following standards. ASTM D6083 is a great standard for just creating a product that can handle and make a weatherproofing solution for your roofing. So this standard is great. It talks about everything that a coating has to have, what kind of testing it needs, what kind of properties it needs to be a long-term weatherproofing solution. And this is what we followed when we created Belzona 3111, which is our main product for roofing and buildings and structures, making them waterproof. We do have several other products. This is our main product, but we have other products that come in handy in different scenarios, and we'll get into that later. But as you can see, these are just some of the tests that standard requires. And then every test, there's a requirement on what type of number you need. So for instance, your elongation requirements must be 100%. So that means it must, when it's under, when they do the tensile strength test, it must be able to elongate at least 100%. So that's just showing that it's flexible. And to get into these first, just a high level overview of the main points within that standard. And the first thing I'm going to say is we don't sell paint here at Belzona. Well, we sell our coatings. And after I talk about these tests, and after you see the examples that I'm showing you, you'll see that this is not something that you're going to buy at Home Depot. This is a product that goes through a multitude of testing, and it's applied by trained applicators, and it's designed for every application. Some of the main things, you definitely need flexibility or elongation. Roofs, one of the main things is movement. So they're going to expand with changes in temperature. They're going to expand with loads. The loads can be, wind loads or water, rain, movement, weight. So you need something that has that flexibility. So we do that testing in a tensometer where we make dog bone samples and put them in the tensometer, stretch them out, and make sure that they can elongate before breaking. So weathering, that was another typical issue. Your typical roofing materials will degrade under UV, under rain. So we have accelerated weathering machines like this one where we can really put them through a lot of cyclical, water spray and UV light, and they do 1,000 hours of this testing back to back to back. It's really aggressive, and they have to be able to pass all the regular testing like the elongation and the adhesion testing after they've been exposed to all this. So first they're going to do all that testing, they pass it, they need to pass them again after they pass this test. So this is a very intense test. Adhesion. So obviously to protect your roof, you're going to need to stick to the roof and stay adhered to it. So we do our normal dry adhesion where we apply our product to different types of roofing materials and peel them off to get a PLI number, of pounds per linear inch. And there's a certain number you have to hit as per the standard. And then you also have to do an adhesion test after being immersed in water for a certain period of time. So you have to make sure that being immersed in water is not going to reduce your flexibility. So we immersed it in 164 hours, performed the test, and passed it. Low temperature flexibility. So in Houston, we don't, I guess last year, it got pretty cold, so you'd want that low temperature flexibility, but you definitely, even in the 20s, 30s, some of those coatings are going to become brittle, some of those paints. So you have to pass this test, which is a low temperature flexibility at -26°C. So that's pretty cold. So that gives you that comfort that even in the winter, you're not going to lose that flexibility or become brittle. Permeance and water swelling. So if you ever talk to a Belzona rep about 3111 and our membranes, so this is 3111 is considered one of our membrane products. We talk a lot about breathability. It's a breathable product. And the main idea of that is you want the product to allow the passage of water vapor so that if it does absorb some water, it allows it to vent out. Or if there's water underneath the coating, once it vaporizes or evaporates, it can go through the coating. So you don't want it to swell up and just retain all that water. So these products, they prevent the passage of bulk water through them, but they allow water vapor to escape through them so they don't swell up with water. So they have to pass a certain water swelling testing that's done by an ASTM standard. And once they hit that number, they're able to be a part of that standard. And finally, you don't want it to tear. With all that movement and loading, it has to have some sort of strength to it. So it can't tear. Obviously, if it tears, then you're having an issue and creating an opening for water to get into. So as you can see, there's a lot of testing that goes into it, and a lot of time looking through the standard, changing the formulation and creating a product that can pass all those testing. So looking into some applications, some problem areas, leaking windows and skylights. So you can see one of the great things about this product as well, you see these guys are hanging off by rope access. You really wouldn't want anything that's very hard to apply. So this is a fairly easy product to apply. It's a one component product. It comes in a big bucket and it's just brushed or rolled on. Doesn't require extensive prep. So it comes with a primer that can really adhere to, a really light prep. So anything from a light sand to just a degrease and clean steel, it's going to have all the adhesion it needs. Like I said before, movement. So you have HVAC units on top of a roof. There's going to be vibration. There's going to be movement turning on and off. There's going to be rivets that connect joints. So all these are trouble areas that our product, which is flexible, can handle movement, can handle water pooling. It's a great application for these trouble areas that you don't want to deal with. And then gutters, another area. So this is a different product here. This is similar to 3111. It's a membrane product, breathable product. The difference between this one and our 3111 is this one is what we call surface tolerant. So if it's a rainy day or there's a lot of humidity, or even you have some live leaks going on, this can be applied. And 1 hour later, if it rains, it is totally fine. So it's a very water moisture tolerant product. So this is good in that Houston weather that's very unpredictable, or if you just need something now and has to be applied today, this is a good product for those sort of scenarios. Also, all these products, we have a reinforcing fabric that go with them that adds a little bit of tensile and tear strength. So for trouble areas like seams and leaks and joints, we're gonna suggest to incorporate the reinforcing fabric. So, and that one, this was actually a hospital patio that was leaking. So when it started to rain, it was leaking at the floor to wall interface and leaking onto a construction, to an operating room underneath. It was luckily it was under construction, so it didn't start leaking during any operations or anything like that. But this product was used along the side here. Being that it's really easy to use and flexible, it's able to contour to that 90-degree angle there at the wall to floor interface, and it sealed up that leak so it can rain now and it's not going to leak into the room below. So moving to the industrial side, we have our tank-based sealing. So like I said before, microporous, so it's breathable. Any trapped vapors, any trapped water underneath can escape out. It's flexible, UV resistant, seamless encapsulation, water and weatherproof tight. Just like buildings, tanks are going to have a lot of expansion and contraction when they fill and when they drain, or in the water when it heats up, and when the day is hot and day is cold, there's going to be movement. There's going to be differences in movement with the concrete and the tank. So you need something that's flexible. You need something that can handle some water during the rain. And you need something that's easy to apply. Some of these tanks are quite large. It needs to be economical and easy to apply. So this product is fairly easy. Not anything that needs an extensive training to apply. Light prep, and it's applied to the tank base to create a seal around it and keep any water from going underneath the tank chine. And then staying in that industrial side, we see a lot of flanges with the crevice corrosion. When it rains, water can get into that gasket area. The bolts can corrode over time as well. We see that a lot, to the point where you can't even open up the bolts or access the bolts. So this is a membrane that you can apply over flanges. It was designed mainly for flanges because it just has that application where you create a total flange encapsulation. So you block any water or any moisture from getting into that gasket area. But it can be used in a lot of different scenarios. One of the great things about this as well is you can actually cut this right at the gasket, peel it, inspect your bolt and your flanges, and then put it back. So it's a peelable and resealable system. We can go into further detail with that on another. If you're interested in that, we can talk about that a lot more. But this is a great product used extensively. But besides flanges, you can use it on bolts as well. So any sort of weird geometry, it works really well. I've seen it used in conduit cables, different areas that are tough geometries where you really want to encapsulate everything. There's little gaps that paint's really not going to encapsulate. So this is going to encapsulate those little gaps and not allow that crevice corrosion to enter into those areas. And that's what a lot of these membranes do, especially with the reinforcing fabric, is you're sealing off those little tiny gaps that cause that crevice corrosion. And then finally, taking it to another step, at times there might be water damage, different damage, and there might even be some active leakage. So in this case, these were some transformer turrets, and they had this bituminous membrane here that was supposed to be the waterproofing. And when they removed it, it was actually, the metal was totally corroded, and there was actually some active leakage, active oil leakage. So we were able to go in there, stop the live leakage with some of our leak repair materials. We've done a couple webinars on those. And then once we stopped the leak, we created our own seal with our membranes to stop this from happening again. So moving from the outside, we're going to go to the inside. There's definitely waterproofing that needs to happen on the inside, and we have a lot of different scenarios where that can happen. You can have steel piping penetrations in concrete. You got your wall to floor interfaces, concrete walls that are leaking, from the outside, but you can't really get to the source at times. So you can stop it from the inside. And one thing to mention is you're always going to want to get it from the source. If you can get to the outside where the water's coming in, that's your best application. But there's times where we've had walls that are leaking and you can't find the source. So we have products that can adhere to both concrete and steel. They're going to be heat and water resistant. Sometimes you have some boilers operating at high temperatures. You have kitchen stoves operating at high temperatures. You might have cleaning agents that are eating up typical coatings out there. So you're going to need some chemical resistance, and you're going to need some strength and flexibility as well. Some of these penetrations that we do require some flexibility. So we have some rubberized elastomers, polyurethanes that are flexible. And we also have our traditional epoxies with fabrics, and a lot of times we're going to use our membranes as well. So going into some of these, similar to the hospital patio, but on the inside, this was leaking at the floor to wall interface as well, leaking on the room below, which is not good. You can see this is a control room. So that same membrane just used on the inside this time. You still need all those properties, the water tightness, the flexibility, and you can use it in here, and it's a great application. So same idea here as well. Now we're going tile to concrete wall interface. In this case, we used a little bit of epoxy as well before the membrane to seal the gap, and then we applied our membrane over the top. And you can see here, no specialized tools, no extensive construction. There's no need to demo out a wall or do anything crazy. It's a light prep, hand tools, and then applying it by hand. Simple application. And then your other problem areas are going to be your drains and your penetrations. So these a lot of times are not sealed correctly and leak over time, and can cause major issues. And really the key is to find the source. So here we found the source. It might be leaking 3 stories below, and you got to chase your ways. I think one of our consultants worked his way up, 3 different stories to find where it was coming from. Once you find that, we have different products that can be used to totally seal those off. You might have some damaged concrete around the drain. We can rebuild that, line it up correctly, seal it. And that can cause some major issues as far as water being on the floor and you don't know it, someone comes and slips, different things like that. So these are potential areas where you really want to make it watertight. So these are some pictures, and this is what I was talking about earlier. This was a kitchen area where they were dropping some boiled water on the floor regularly, and the coating they used was just being eaten up, causing drain issues and leaks. So we came in with our high temperature products that can handle, boiling water, hitting it, consistently. And that's the type of things you have to look into. And that's why there's a difference between coatings and paint systems. You got to have, not every paint's going to be able to handle boiling water hitting it, but we have products that have been tested for boiling water, steam, high temperatures products. So definitely have to look into all the things. It's not, really look into them as more of an application than just a regular fix. So, did my screen stop? So that's about all I had. Any questions on anything? And we're mainly known for our industrial side, our pipe wraps and industrial coatings. And some people don't know that we have these membranes, these roofing materials, but we work a lot in the buildings and structures industry. And these same products are also used within the industrial side as well. There's roofs within industrial side for control rooms, offices, tank roofs. So these are durable products. And I'd also mention that we do have expansion joints as well. That was supposed to be in there. Different products like that as well for water tightness.
Alex, I did have a question. I had to step out for just a second, but do you have, do you incorporate like non-skid into that for safety reasons?
Yeah, so you're definitely going to want to put in some non-skid if you have a floor that has heavy traffic. We have our own grip system that we apply into it. It's even going to actually make it a little bit more robust and durable. So if you have some, forklifts running through it, it's going to make it more durable. And then obviously it's going to give you that grip that you need so no one slips and falls.
Great.
Any other questions? Any other comments?
Yeah, Alex, one question. On the 3111, is that 12 mils total system thickness or per coat
That's going to
to
be
maintain
it's
the
a
breathability?
10 to 12 mils per coat. And the reinforcing fabric that it comes with is 10 mils thick. So when you apply that first coat, you lay in the fabric and it acts as a guide to your thickness. And then the next coat typically is applied a little bit thinner, 6 to 10. But yeah, you can go two coats, 10 mils each and still have that breathability.